Hi, I'm Erik Voss, and Star Wars The Last Jedi left us with some big questions for where the franchise could go in Episode 9. And because it's never too soon to speculate on the future of Star Wars with only the slightest shreds of real information, let's break down some predictions for Episode 9. Based on promises the first two films of the new trilogy seem to leave us with, and historical precedent of how Lucasfilm, Disney, and this creative team tends to deliver on those kinds of promises. And in case any of these shots in the dark end up being right, spoiler warning, I guess? Also, I guess spoiler warning for The Last Jedi, in case you're, waiting to binge all the movies until the last one comes out. Okay, first off, let's talk about Leia in Episode 9. The original game plan for this new trilogy was for Episode 7 to be Han Solo's story, Episode 8 to be Luke Skywalker's story, and Episode 9 to be Leia's story. But after Carrie Fisher's death in December 2016, Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy confirmed that they were pretty much starting over with whatever story ideas they had. Fisher's daughter, Billie Lourd, who plays Lieutenant Connix in the movies, allowed them to use her mother's likeness in Episode 9 if they wanted, but the studio confirmed they would not be going in that direction. So here is my first prediction for Episode 9. I think the story will pick up after a long time jump, during which we'll learn through exposition dialogue that General Organa passed away. Do I think the opening crawl will lead with General Leia Organa is dead? No. God, no, well, hopefully not. That would be kind of tone deaf. Instead, I expect the opening scenes will take place years later, showing us a new commander of the Resistance, Poe Dameron, perhaps now at the rank of Admiral or General, who would mention something about Leia's passing. Disney has actually had to do something like this before. For Pixar's Cars 2, Paul Newman, who did the voice of Doc in the first film, had passed away between the movies, and the characters lightly referenced Doc's departure. The third Cars actually did a pretty good job turning Doc's memory into a key emotional motivator for the story, and I could see Disney wanting to do a similar thing with Leia's legacy, but more on that later. I also think a time jump is necessary for the story. At the end of The Last Jedi, the Resistance forces had been worn down to, by my count in those final scenes, around 20 fighters. They're literally all aboard the Millennium Falcon. Yeah, it's not much of an army if it can fit on one party bus. But at the end of the movie, when Leia told Rey, "We have everything we need," followed by a scene of stable kids on Canto Bight telling the story of Luke's last stand and wishing upon a star with old rebel swag. The implication was that the Resistance lives on to a new generation, a slow burn that will take at least a few years to rebuild into a fire large enough to take on the First Order. Moving on to another big question people have about Episode 9, will director JJ Abrams return to some of those loose threads he left in The Force Awakens? The importance of Rey's parents, Snoke as a villain, the Knights of Ren, since Rian Johnson kind of did away with them in The Last Jedi. I'll get to that, but first a quick update on Abrams. He took over directing duties for Episode 9 and teamed up with writer Chris Terrio to finish the trilogy. He recently pitched the final story idea to Disney head Bob Iger, and Episode 9 is now using the working title of Black Diamond. And don't get too excited, Black Diamond probably doesn't mean anything in relation to the universe. For example, The Last Jedi's working title was Space Bear, which was an inside joke from Rian Johnson about their struggle to figure out how the story would go, and the joke that a space bear could fly in and save the day. Episode 9's current release date is scheduled for December 20th, 2019, which is still about 2 years away, so really the whole story of this movie is still very much up in the air. But from what we know about JJ Abrams as a filmmaker, I wouldn't get your hopes up for any clear answers. So my second prediction, JJ Abrams will keep the mysteries a mystery. Abrams' whole philosophy as a creator is a concept he refers to as the mystery box. Basically the idea that the mystery itself has far more storytelling value than the answer inside the box. And sure, this can be maddening for fans, but if you think of it as a strategy to hook you into the story and then win you over with super likable characters and well-directed action, it's really super successful. So looking at Abrams this way, the mysteries he set up in The Force Awakens and Rey's whole Force Vision flashback were puzzle pieces he probably never intended to put together. To him, puzzle pieces are more valuable unassembled and hung on a wall as their own works of art. So yeah, maybe we'll see the Knights of Ren, but I doubt we'll learn their first names or anything. Really, I think this lack of full resolution will also apply to the war between the Resistance and the First Order. So let's move on to our next prediction. The Resistance will probably win the battle, but probably not the war. Not yet. Maybe not ever. In The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson didn't do a ton to set up for a sequel, but one storyline did leave us with a bit of mystery. Benicio del Toro's character, DJ, who betrays Finn and Rose to the First Order for a hefty payoff. DJ cynically tells Finn, "They blow you up today, you blow them up tomorrow, it's just business." Finn responds saying, "You're wrong," and then DJ, after after considering this, says, maybe. This response not only leaves the door open for DJ to return in episode 9, which he probably will, most likely as a Han Solo-type, money-driven, chaotic neutral who eventually joins the cause, it suggests the outcomes of these constant galactic wars are never clean. And he's right, the conflicts are never over, because the ending stuff is boring. The destruction of both Death Stars eventually, of course, led to a resurgence of the Dark Forces. Even if the Resistance overcomes the First Order, it'll probably be by the skin of its teeth. Really, so that Disney can keep making more and more Star Warses. But one thing that I do think is clearly over, and I don't think JJ Abrams can or really should change this, is the Jedi Order, and honestly, the Skywalker saga. While the relationship between Rey and Kylo Ren, who by the way is now Supreme Leader of the First Order, seems to remain the driving force of the story, The Last Jedi made it clear that this conflict was no longer just about Jedi versus Sith, or pure light versus pure dark. The big message of the movie is that the Force is more about the balance between these two sides. So when Luke and Force Ghost Yoda watch the last remnant of the Jedi Order burn, I think it's a pretty clear signal that the Jedi as we know it are not meant to last. But really the deeper takeaway of all this was spoken directly by Kylo in the film.
Let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
On a meta level, The Last Jedi signaled a turning point away from the Skywalker family drama that had dominated the saga. Kylo severed his remaining ties to his bloodline, and Rey's bloodline was revealed to be completely unexceptional. So my next prediction is the Jedi tradition will transform into something new. As I pointed out in my breakdown of The Last Jedi, which you should definitely go check out if you haven't already, one of the closing shots of the movie shows that Rey actually took the ancient Jedi texts from the tree library. I believe she will read those and interpret them in a new way, maybe realize some alternate translation that changes the meaning of the Jedi code, and become a new sort of Jedi Master, maybe something that doesn't even use the term Jedi. That might involve rebuilding Luke and Anakin's old lightsaber that got severed in The Last Jedi. Some have suggested that given Rey's skills with the bow staff, it would be cool for that new lightsaber to be dual-bladed. We'll see. Also, another shot earlier in the film showed that Kyber crystal necklace in Luke's home. Maybe that's the one that she'll use to power this new saber. I think whatever this new order is, it could be something that Kylo Ren could get on board with. Like Rey, he's also now removed from the Skywalkers, as well as the Jedi-Sith conflict. So I don't think Kylo will be the purely evil villain in episode 9. General Hux now seems to have Space Nazi covered. So Rey unlocking this new avenue of the Force could be a way to turn Kylo's heart. Really, I think episode 9 will measure these characters by their ability to truly finally let the past die. And I think one form that conflict could take leads me to my final prediction. Luke will return as a Force ghost to help Rey, but also maybe to haunt Kylo. In Luke's final confrontation with Kylo, he made two bold promises. One, strike me down in anger and I'll always be with you. And then after revealing that he was just a projection, see you around, kid. To me, these are pretty much guarantees that Luke will haunt Kylo as a Force ghost, a Jacob Marley or a Banquo to slowly drive this asshole insane until he either destroys himself or changes his ways. Luke's wording also implies that others whom Kylo struck down in anger might similarly haunt him. For example, how great would it be to see Harrison Ford cameo as another Force ghost, bickering with Luke as they trail Kylo everywhere he goes. I'm just saying the long hair looks kind of weird. What's wrong with long hair? And even though the studio promised footage of Carrie Fisher wouldn't at all appear in episode 9, who knows? Maybe we'll hear an echo of her voice to imply some other lasting presence that these characters will struggle to move on from. I just really want to hear Carrie Fisher say, "Get your head out of your cockpit" one last time. But as we wait for more details about episode 9 to come out, my question for you guys is, which of the two previous installments do you think episode 9 will be more similar to? JJ Abrams' nostalgic adventure, The Force Awakens, or the darker game changer, The Last Jedi? I would say The Force Awakens, but Abrams has said that he loved The Last Jedi and wishes he had written the script. So maybe he'll try to move more in that direction. No matter what, this third chapter has to be darker than the first one was. Comment with your take down below, or tweet me directly at Erik Voss, and follow New Rockstars on Twitter at New Rockstars for updates on our videos. Like this video and subscribe to New Rockstars for more Star Wars coverage, including more deep dives into The Last Jedi. Again, make sure to check out my breakdown, as well as all the details about the upcoming Solo: A Star Wars Story. And if you really like us, you can contribute to us on Patreon. Big thanks to all of our donors, especially Pony Stark. Thanks for watching. Bye.